Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty wild, I gotta say, reality transurfing, which basically says that we, you and me, everybody listening, that we have way more control over shaping our own realities than we tend to think.
That's the idea.
So we're going to try to get to the bottom of this and see if there's something here that that we can really take away and apply,
Absolutely.
So to do that, we've got a couple of we've got a couple of sources by Vadim Zeland.
Right.
One is this summary.pdf.
That's right.
Which kind of lays out like the key concepts and definitions and stuff like that.
Good conceptual overview.
And then his book, Transurfing in 78 Days, which is more of a practical, like, course.
Yeah, like how to apply it.
Right, how to actually apply it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Zeland himself says that some of this stuff sounds...
incredible. He actually uses that word.
Incredible, right? We get it. It can sound kind of out there, but we're just going to try to unpack it and see what we can make of it.
Absolutely.
So to start off, the first big concept is the alternative space.
Right.
So what is that exactly?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
It's like this infinite field of information.
Okay.
Like a cosmic library, basically.
Okay.
That contains every possibility, right? Every event that's ever happened, that could happen, that's happening right now.
Okay.
He actually uses this really cool analogy of this massive film reel that just stretches out infinitely in all directions.
Okay.
And each frame on that reel represents a different possible reality.
Oh, wow.
A different script and scenery is how he puts it.
Okay.
And so the present moment, what we're experiencing right now, is just the one frame that's illuminated. It's like the projector shining on that one frame.
Wow, that's a good analogy.
Out of infinite frames, right?
So then what about, like, our past and future?
That's a great question.
Are they just, like, sitting there in the reel somewhere?
Exactly.
Wow.
So according to this model,
okay,
the past and the future aren't actually fixed.
You're not fixed.
In the way that we usually think of them, right?
Okay.
We think of them as linear.
Yeah.
But they actually exist simultaneously within this vast alternatives space, right?
Just other frames.
Other frames on the reel, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
And this is kind of a key takeaway.
Yeah.
It means that your fate,
okay,
anyone listening's fate,
right,
isn't a single predetermined path.
Okay.
There's actually countless alternative versions of our lives.
Wow.
Already out there,
So all the different decisions that we could have made or didn't make or...
Yeah, all those are playing out somewhere. On some frame in the alternative space.
Wow.
So that's pretty mind-blowing, I think.
Yeah. So that brings to mind, like, dreams,
Right.
Like, how do dreams fit into all this?
Yeah. So Zeland's take on this is that when we dream... right? Our soul is, in a sense, journeying through this alternative space.
Oh, okay.
So, those really bizarre, seemingly random dream scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those could actually be glimpses of those other scripts and sceneries that exist in that infinite field.
So I guess that makes those weird dreams a little less weird then?
A little bit, yeah.
If they actually mean something?
Right.
So then the question becomes like, we have this infinite amount of information.
Right.
How do we even begin to...
Right.
Like, how does our mind even navigate that?
That's a good question.
We can't possibly be consciously aware
of everything.
Of everything, right?
Yeah. So the idea is not that your brain is storing all this information. It's more like your mind addresses or connects to specific slices of this alternative space. It's like tuning a radio, right?
Yeah.
You turn the dial to a specific frequency, pick up a specific broadcast.
Okay, so it's like picking a channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is how he explains intuition.
Okay.
That's your consciousness kind of tapping into information that's already there.
Okay, so intuition isn't just like something random.
No, it's not random. It's there in the alternative space.
In the space.
You're just tuning into it.
Wow, okay.
And even those aha moments, creative breakthroughs, right, scientific discoveries, those are seen as the mind connecting with, and downloading information from this field.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
So you're not actually coming up with it.
Yeah.
It's already out there.
It's out there.
And you're just
accessing it.
Accessing it, exactly.
Wow.
And often, he says, this is guided by the heart.
Okay, by the heart.
Not literally the heart.
Not the physical heart.
But more like your deepest intuition.
Your gut feeling, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have this library of realities, and our minds can tune into it.
Right.
But how do we actually influence which one we end up experiencing?
Right.
And that seems to be where thought energy comes in.
Exactly. That's huge.
So what's the core principle here?
So basically, a fundamental principle in Transurfing is that your thought energy has a direct, tangible impact on the physical reality that you experience.
Wow. So it's not just, I'm feeling optimistic because I'm thinking positively. It's...
Well, it's... Yeah, that's part of it. It goes beyond that.
Affecting the actual events.
Yeah, the events, the circumstances, the people you meet, everything.
Okay.
So to be fair, Zalen does acknowledge that, mainstream science hasn't fully validated this idea yet. Yeah. Okay. He actually talks about how the experimental results are kind of ambiguous.
Right.
But he's saying, look, regardless of whether or not science has fully grasped how this works. This influence of thought energy is real. It's a fundamental aspect.
So it's like they just haven't figured out how to measure it yet.
That's his argument, basically. Yeah.
And then this leads to the concept of outer intention.
Yes, outer intention. What's that all about?
So this is described as this powerful force that exists beyond your own individual conscious will. It's kind of like a current that's flowing in the alternative space. And you can, in a way, learn to align with this current.
I see.
It's almost like tapping into a larger pre-existing momentum of potential outcomes. So you're not creating this intention. It's already there.
It's there, and you're just
tapping into it.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like fate or destiny in a way.
It does.
Yeah, so how is that?
It does sound like that.
How is that different then from just like having a strong desire for something?
Well, and that's a really crucial distinction. So transurfing actually differentiates very strongly between desire and intention. Desire, he says, often comes from a place of lack. Of wanting something that you don't have. And often it comes with this feeling of longing. This fear of failure.
Right.
Intention, on the other hand, is like this firm, unwavering resolve. It's a clear focus on your goal as if it's already been achieved.
I see, like it's already happened.
Yeah, exactly. It carries this feeling of certainty, and it doesn't have that emotional...
struggle.
Yeah, that struggle.
That comes with desire.
That often comes with desire.
So it's less about like, I really, really want this thing, and more about, I'm going to have this thing.
Yes.
A quiet confidence?
A quiet confidence, a quiet expectation. He actually uses this analogy. He says desire is like begging the universe for something. Intention is confidently placing an order. You go to a restaurant. You don't beg for your food.
You just say, I'll have this.
I'll have this, thank you. And you expect it to come. That's intention.
So it's like a clear and decisive choice almost.
Exactly. And that's another really key principle here is the power of choice. So
choice of what, though?
So in transurfing, making a choice, a clear and decisive choice, is considered a fundamental law. He's saying that if you truly make a choice and you imbue it with your intention, it will be realized in your reality.
Wow. So it's not even...
almost independent of...
It's not even about the striving...
How much you strive.
You just choose it?
Yeah.
And then it's done.
And it kind of starts to happen.
Wow. Okay.
It's like the universe takes your order...
It's brought to
and starts fulfilling it.
In the background. Behind
the scenes.
Yeah.
So the emphasis is really on defining what you choose to experience. And rather than getting bogged down.
Not so much the how.
In the how?
Yeah. That's the universe's job.
The universe figures out the how, we figure out the what.
You got it. So moving on. I think it's worth talking about Carl Jung's idea of synchronicity.
Synchronicity,
So
how does that fit in with transurfing?
So Jung defined synchronicity as those meaningful coincidences. Those events that seem connected. But there's no obvious cause and effect.
It's just like, what a coincidence that...
Yeah, exactly. And the summary.pdf actually mentions...
Jung's classic example of the patient who dreamed of a golden scarab beetle. And then a real golden scarab beetle...
showed up.
appeared at the window.
Right, at that moment. Wow.
So it's like, what are the odds?
Wow. Okay,
right?
so how does transurfing explain these?
Right. Are they just
synchronicity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they just random flukes?
Yeah.
So transurfing's take on this is that synchronicity is not random at all.
Not random.
It's not random.
Yeah.
It's saying that both of Jung's explanations for how this happens actually hold weight. So the first one is that your dominant thoughts and intentions can actually shape events in your reality and create the conditions for these seemingly random events to occur.
Okay, so you're kind of attracting them in a way.
You're attracting them, yeah.
Okay.
The second explanation is that your thoughts can arise as a kind of subconscious premonition, a sensing of events that are about to unfold.
Oh, like you can feel it coming almost?
You feel it coming, yeah.
Okay.
So the way this works is that your heart, again, not the physical heart, but more your intuition.
Your intuition, yeah.
Has access to information in the alternative space.
Okay.
And your mind then interprets that and rationalizes it into conscious thoughts.
Okay.
So when your heart's knowing and your mind's focus are aligned, those thoughts then have greater power to manifest, to actually happen, and that leads to more of these synchronicities.
Okay, so it's like my intuition kind of knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And then my mind focusing on that actually helps it to happen.
Exactly. You're kind of, pulling it from the alternative space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Zeiland brings in this idea from quantum physics.
He does.
John Bell's theorem.
Yeah, John Bell's theorem.
And that's pretty heavy science stuff.
It is. It's a bit complicated, but in simple terms, it basically says that at a quantum level, particles that were once connected stay connected.
They stay connected.
Instantaneously.
Even if they're far apart.
Even across vast distances.
Okay.
So that kind of challenges our idea of...
Our classical understanding.
Right, of space and time.
Of space and time, of cause and effect.
Yeah.
And the limitations of the speed of light.
So it's almost like they're communicating faster than the speed of light.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And so transurfing uses this theorem as a kind of parallel to suggest that at a fundamental level, there's this interconnectedness.
Interconnectedness, yeah.
That allows for...
this influence of thought
to transcend
space and time.
Your immediate physical sphere.
Wow, okay.
So he's not saying this is direct scientific proof.
Okay.
But it's an alignment
it's a possibility
with the idea that your thoughts can influence
things far away.
A reality beyond yourself in ways that we don't fully understand with our current scientific models.
So it's hinting at a connection between our inner world and the outer world.
Exactly, yeah.
That's much deeper than we tend to think.
A deeper web than we typically acknowledge.
So then Zeiland brings in this idea of lifelines.
Yes.
And this seems to be...
this is key.
Key to understanding how we navigate this alternatives space.
Exactly.
So what are they? How do they work?
So imagine the alternative space.
Okay.
Right?
It's like infinite.
It's this infinite jumble of possibilities.
Yeah.
But it's not just completely random.
Okay.
It's actually organized into sectors.
Okay.
Within each sector.
Okay.
You have relatively consistent scripts and scenery.
Okay.
And these are your lifelines.
Oh, I see.
So your life unfolds along a specific lifeline.
A specific lifeline characterized by...
certain patterns.
Yeah, a certain consistency in the types of events and circumstances and even the people you meet.
Okay.
But, and this is really important for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Significant shifts in your...
thought energy.
Your dominant thought energy and your intention can actually cause you to transition from one lifeline to another.
To a different lifeline.
To a different lifeline?
So if I consistently change my thinking and my focus.
Your focus,
then I could potentially move to a lifeline where
things are different.
Yeah, where my experiences are different.
Yeah, the probabilities are different.
Okay, so then what kind of actions would actually trigger a shift like that?
So there's no, guaranteed formula.
Okay.
But generally speaking, consistent and focused intention directed towards the outcome that you want.
Okay.
Coupled with a shift.
A shift.
In your overall energy.
Okay, how do you shift your energy, though?
So that means dropping. Getting emotions.
Okay.
Cultivating
positive.
Positive expectations.
Okay.
That scene is key.
Right.
It's about aligning your internal broadcaster with the frequency of the lifeline that you want.
Okay, so it's that tuning the radio analogy again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm turning the dial to a different
A different channel, yeah.
Okay.
Different station.
Now, Zealand makes this pretty wild claim.
He does.
About the past and the future.
He does.
In relation to these lifelines.
Right.
So, what's that about?
So the idea is you can't go back and change the past.
Okay.
Or jump ahead and alter the future.
Right.
On the specific lifeline that you're on.
Okay, on the one I'm on right now.
Right.
Okay.
However, by shifting to a different lifeline,
you
could potentially find yourself on a trajectory that has a different
version
of what you previously considered your past or future.
Okay.
It's not about rewriting history on your current track.
Okay.
But it's more like moving to a parallel reality.
Oh, okay.
Where the events unfolded differently.
Okay, so it's not time travel in the sense of like going back to the past.
No, not going back in time.
It's more like
a parallel reality.
Yeah, a parallel universe almost.
Yeah, that has a different past.
With a different past.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he even uses that.
He does.
To explain things like UFO sightings.
He does. So how he says,
how does he tie that in?
They're seemingly impossible movements.
Yeah, like how do they do that?
Right. How do they fly like that?
Yeah.
He suggests that it might not be about advanced technology as we understand it.
But rather their ability to realize themselves at different points.
In the alternative space.
In the alternative space.
Okay, so they're basically jumping between frames. Yeah.
It's like they're manipulating the film reel.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a pretty wild idea.
Yeah. It definitely challenges conventional thinking.
It does.
But it does reinforce this idea that reality might be more
fluid.
Yeah, more flexible than we tend to think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So now we've explored these core concepts.
Right.
And kind of the framework that Zealand is laying out.
Yeah.
So now let's get to the practical stuff.
Yeah, let's talk application.
How can people actually start using these principles in their everyday lives?
Right.
And it seems like this idea of pendulums.
Yeah, pendulums are big.
Is really important.
Really important.
So first of all, what are they exactly?
So pendulums are defined as these energy information structures.
Okay. That are created and sustained by groups of people.
Okay.
Focusing their thoughts and emotions in the same direction.
Oh, I see.
So think of them as
like collective
thought forms that gain a kind of independent existence.
Okay.
And then they can actually exert influence back on the individuals
that created them
that are feeding into that.
Okay.
So these pendulums, according to Transurfing, often operate in ways that distract us from our own paths, from our own true happiness.
Okay, so it's like being pulled along by the energy of a crowd, even if that crowd's not going in the right direction for me.
Going where you want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And he says that they feed on this thing called importance energy. Importance energy, right? So what's that?
So when you give something too much importance,
an outcome, an opinion, a conflict, you're investing your energy into that pendulum.
Into the pendulum, right.
Making it stronger and giving it more power to sway you.
I see, okay.
And they often manipulate us. Through
negative emotions.
Like guilt.
Guilt, right.
Fear, dependence.
Okay.
So think about...
It sounds like how society... pressures us sometimes.
Absolutely. And how...
Societal expectations.
Yeah, and how the internet and echo chambers can work.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting pulled into...
You're feeding the pendulum.
Into a certain way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from these pendulums then?
Right, how do we get our energy back?
Yeah.
So the key here is to consciously drop importance.
Okay, drop importance.
Both inner and outer importance.
Okay, so what's the difference between those?
So inner importance is about letting go of.
Letting go of.
The need to feel significant.
Superior.
Yeah.
It's about releasing those...
Ego-driven.
Yeah, ego-driven attachments to your own opinions and beliefs.
Okay.
Outer importance is about not giving too much weight to external events.
Okay.
Other people's actions.
Okay.
Societal expectations.
Right, so it's not letting those things get to you so much.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the practical advice is to observe situations with detachment.
With detachment, okay.
Without getting emotionally entangled.
Right, so it's like not getting caught up in the drama.
Yeah, not getting caught up in the drama. So
right.
just kind of be the observer.
The observer.
Yeah. And to not get too attached to your own opinions and judgments.
Okay, but that sounds easy in theory.
It does. It's hard to do in practice.
Yeah, especially when we feel strongly about something.
Right.
So
how do we do that?
How do you actually do that? Yeah. So one of the fundamental rules in transurfing is this. Give yourself permission to be yourself.
Okay.
And allow others to do the same.
Okay, so just let everybody be.
Yeah, let everybody be.